Hi everyone. Unfortunately, I am sick, as you can hear, but I have written something for me to just read out, even if like the fever is getting to me. Yes. For those who might not be familiar with me or my work, I have been deeply involved in supporting the now on hiatus Stop Asian Hate UK, founded by my partner Aidan, who some of you may already know. Together, we have organized impactful events, including a protest and an open mic night to support the East and Southeast Asian diaspora in combating anti-ESEA racism. Additionally, we have collaborated with Iris Yao at the Society for Anglo-Chinese Understanding, where we were working tirelessly to foster mutual respect and understanding between communities here in Britain, as well as ESEA communities here in Britain and China. So, um, in April 2024, I had the profound honor of visiting China as part of the Friends of Socialist China delegation, hosted by our esteemed guests from Chinese Association for International Understanding. As a heritage graduate and someone prospectively looking to start my PhD next year, I embarked on this journey with a willingness to learn about Chinese history and culture, as well as how this links in with China's current development. So, my initial impressions were a mixture of shock and awe at the incredible development I witnessed in China. Um, Literally, as soon as we got out of the airport in Beijing. The rapid progress in China reminded me, the infrastructure reminded me of my home country, Romania, yet with a significantly more advanced infrastructure. The level of urban development and modernization was truly remarkable, especially when contrasted to the UK, where I've lived, unfortunately, for almost 10 years. Before my visit, I held certainly preconceived notions about China, particularly regarding its environmental conditions. There is a certain image of China portrayed in Western media as this like gray hellscape. But I was pleased to find out that the opposite was the case. So the regions we toured, Beijing, Zhejiang, and Jilin, were remarkably clean, green, and adorned with literal beautiful blossoms everywhere, like colors that I didn't even know flowers could be, in fact. I hadn't seen somewhere so beautiful. And I think this demonstrated the significant strides in environmental improvements in China. I would look on my phone and I would be expecting to see like a horrible score on the weather app on my iPhone, but it was not the case. So this development is recorded by Sustainable Mobility as the PM 2.5, which is called particulate matter. It's a type of pollution. The air pollution levels had decreased from 101.56 in 2013 to 31.74 in 2022. And I'll link this in the chat as well. And obviously, this is still not perfect. No one is saying it is, but it's an improvement. And the things that Western media likes to say about China are absolutely not true, at least in this regard. I can say that I've seen it, and it is absolutely a beautiful green place, and especially Zhejiang province. It was absolutely astounding. Moving on, during our stay, we had the privilege of delving into the rich history of the Chinese Revolution at Peking University in Beijing, the Nanhu Revolutionary Memorial Hall in Zhejiang, as well as learning about the response to Japanese imperialism in Suping, Jilin province. So, the insights gained there highlighted the remarkable journey China has undergone in terms of development and modernization since the 1949 revolution, led by Chairman Mao Zedong. Learning about these historical milestones provided a profound context to the country's current achievements. There, we explored the profound impact of the new culture movement, which I was particularly interested in, led by the young Mao Zedong and his fellow student activists. And you can actually see at Peking University the museum that they've got, and they've kept all of these records of even like the banners that were used by some of the students in their activism. It was profoundly interesting and impressive how much they've actually preserved. This movement was pivotal in transforming Chinese society by promoting new ideas in literature, philosophy, education, arts, calligraphy, anything you can imagine. And it ultimately laid the groundwork for modern China's development. An essential aspect of this movement was making Chinese culture accessible to the masses. So, for example, one thing was simplifying the Chinese alphabet, thus promoting literacy, something that in nearby provinces like in Hong Kong and in Taiwan as well, they still maintain the traditional script of Chinese characters as opposed to the simplified one, which is considerably easier to read by most people who haven't studied it formally. And people who would have studied it would have been scholars who had the means and the money to do so before the revolution. Right, where am I? Yeah, and I think this movement kind of enabled a broader segment of society to engage with and appreciate this cultural heritage, and it fostered a sense of national identity and unity. We also learned much about how art and filmmaking was used throughout revolutionary Chinese history, for example, at Changchun Film Studio, and how the studio contributed significantly to shaping early Chinese cinematic narratives and themes during the revolutionary period, often depicting heroic struggles against oppression and imperialism, much notably Japan and Japanese imperialism. I think very importantly, as a heritage graduate, I was particularly eager to learn more about Chinese cultural heritage and traditional Chinese culture. Because obviously I've looked at it, I've researched it for so long, but to actually see it in front of me was really a life-changing moment. And it was with great excitement that we then entered the National Tea Museum in Zhejiang. This visit was not only enlightening, but also a testament to China's commitment to preserving its cultural heritage whilst embracing modernity. I'll get to that in a second. So we participated in some traditional ceremonies and got to try Zhejiang specialty tea, a very fresh tasting Longjing tea. There were myriad types of teas on display. Like honestly, I think it was in the thousands. They had these sort of like little rhombuses where they had like little bits of tea on display and they separated it by type of tea, which is super interesting. Um, which is also interesting because lots of people actually associate green teas, matcha, things like that with Japan, but we all know it originated in China, and it's super interesting to see that 1,000-year-old tradition being kept alive and on display for people to learn about. Um, so there was such a cool thing talking about the modern aspect of it, especially in museums. You could actually click this button and it would disperse the fragrance of the particular tea, the button that you're clicking on, and you could just put your nose up to it. It was literally so cool. It was really, really strong. I don't know how they do it. It's really impressive though. Um, we also engaged in numerous discussions with scholars and experts from Peking University, Renmin University, Jilin University. The discourse at Jilin University was particularly fascinating, offering deep insights into the economic landscape as well as the agricultural advancements of Jilin province. We had actually also toured some of the fields as well, and I think it was the Lishu Black Soil Museum as well that we saw, where they were talking about the fertility of the soil and how much grain in China actually comes from the Jilin province. Um, and yeah, and we discussed the development plans as well as future aspirations of the province and China in general. And I'm almost finished, but before I move on to my final point, I must emphasize the warmth and hospitality of the Chinese people, despite the language barrier, which sometimes it was quite a large barrier. Metro and museum staff, knowledgeable museum interpreters, tour guides, our gracious hosts, they all made us feel incredibly welcome. Um, Despite some of them not speaking English, they still tried to make us feel welcome in their country. And it was a lovely time when we went to one of the ancient cities. I can't quite remember what it was called now. We went to one ancient city, and there was a little cafe, and there was this lady who was just doing all the coffees herself, and it was honestly one of the best coffees I've ever had in my life. Like Starbucks can't compare to something like that, honestly. Um, and it was like right across from a Starbucks, so that was also quite funny. But after that, our interpreter basically said she's giving you these little postcards, just to say, enjoy China, have a lovely time in China, and we're like, oh my God, this is so cute. Loved it. Really, really loving, caring people, and honestly, their openness and eagerness to show their culture, to share their culture with us, was really motivating for us as well. And yeah, very heartwarming. Um, but since this is also a report back, I must also mention that whilst my experience in China was truly wonderful and filled with awe-inspiring moments and cultural discoveries, one aspect that stood out was the need to emphasize foreign tourism more effectively, especially as I'm a heritage management major. I think this is really crucial for me to say that despite the warmth and hospitality of the Chinese people, there were often frequent language barriers that hindered communication and understanding. And whilst the technological advancements in the museums were truly, truly remarkable, much of the museum interpretation, and here in heritage terms, we're talking about written text that accompanies something like an object or an artifact, not spoken verbal interpretation. That's someone like a tour guide. So it doesn't mean that, it means the written one. So that was mainly available in Chinese. And I think for China to attract more foreign tourists and ensure they have enriching experiences, like this was the whole point of our delegation, to go there and see for ourselves and experience China and experience everything that they had to show us, and things that maybe we that they didn't specifically show us, but things that we noticed. So that's something that I noticed, and which I think would be way more helpful in future. And I think it would facilitate deeper cultural exchanges and also contribute significantly to promoting China's rich heritage on a global scale. I think this is really important for us to talk about, and how this is just an observation to, perhaps like as a form of feedback for them to take into account, if we want everyone to actually see the true China. And in conclusion, my visit to China, as Carlos was saying, this is my first time seeing China, was a transformative experience, and it challenged my perceptions, broaden my understanding of the country's progress, and I'm very excited to share these insights with you today. And I look forward to an engaging discussion. And thank you for your attention. Thank you.